Plenty of time. Stafford's going to air it out deep for Johnson. He's got it. Calvin Johnson makes the catch. Down around the 10-yard line. Kerry Williams on the coverage with a face full of snow for Megatron.
Let's go. Welcome into the MVP Fantasy Football and Sports Podcast. My name is Tyler Johnson, and with me, as always, is my best friend, Ryan Elke. Ryan, what do you think about the Milwaukee Brewers after their hot start, 8-3? We've seen a couple of snags over the fence from Yelich and now Mike Trout to give us that loss last night. What are your thoughts on the Brewers?
It's a great start. I was hoping for them to start out and get a W against the Angels, but the Angels were coming in hot. I think they just won 3 in a row off that game, and they got the best of us. It was just kind of like a blah game. Nothing. We couldn't get anything going, and it felt like Chassin was just kind of, they knew what he was throwing, and he was still duking it out. But it was a game that didn't go well for the Crew. And 8-3 start, you can't really ask for much better. So it's not like a disappointing loss or anything like that. We won 2 out of 3 against the Cubs, so that's always great.
Yes, and we've been winning series up until this point. So the Brewers on a hot start. I know it's a long season, and like you tell a lot of baseball fans, it's a lengthy season. Just stay away from injuries and keep on that pace. I mean, the Bucks did it in Milwaukee too.
You got to weather the storm with the injuries, because the Yankees literally have half their team on the injured list, and then there's a lot of big injuries that are going on around the MLB. And also,
a couple pitchers.
It's like you just gotta. The health is the main thing for one. You also have to have a very deep team, and I feel like the Brewers do. And their farm system, they got a couple guys that are on the verge of like being ready to be called up. The only thing they're lacking right now is bullpen, but Jeffers is coming back soon, and I would love for them to sign like Craig Kimbrell. It'd be huge.
Yeah, and baseball just getting started. I know that we don't want to bore too many people listening. Today, what we have in store for you is our top 10 wide receiver rankings. We have mine and Ryan's top 10, and then we kind of put the consensus of both ours combined. That's what we're going to be going through. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then we also have 3 questions straight off of the Sleeper app. So just make sure you listen in. We're going to go through, probably if this top 10 goes well, we might do 11 through 20 next week and just continue on from there. We just did the QBs last week, so make sure you go back and listen to our top 10 QBs. It's kind of where we think they're going to end fantasy-wise and during the season. I know that some people have a little bit of a hotter fantasy tick than others. Others have just great seasons, don't produce the fantasy numbers, but they're just solid overall. So we're kind of putting that both together into one full list of top 10. I'm ready to get right into it, and we're going to hit it with news. We want to talk about JuJu Smith-Schuster and the Antonio Brown kind of beef going on. It seems very interesting, and it shows the color of AB and kind of what he was going through in his head as he goes for this trade. Somebody who's looked up to him like JuJu through college when he sent him that message, along with last year in the playoffs, how Antonio Brown's going to put him down like that. What did you think when you first looked at it, Ryan?
I thought it was immature, for one. Antonio Brown's, 30 plus?
Yeah.
And Juju's handling it pretty well. And I feel like that tweet, what was the point of that tweet? All it did was show like JuJu was the better guy, like the better person type thing. Like he did nothing wrong. I feel like, what was that? To like step out and be like, look, he's asking me for advice. Like, yeah, why not? You're the best receiver in the league at the time.
Yeah, and
Who
I think it
wouldn't
was
ask you for advice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it was JuJu that posted that Steelers MVP picture.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when Antonio Brown jumped in and made those comments. So it
Yeah,
really shows that
saying how he fumbled and all that. And it's like, dude,
look at the whole season.
I thought it was so petty, dude. I'm like,
Yeah.
Really? This is a 30-plus-year-old guy doing this? I mean, Juju's like, what, 23?
Yeah.
Maybe younger?
Yeah, in the couple of seasons that they had together, it seemed like they were clicking. They were learning from each other.
Except
and
last year, it was just, you could tell Brown was super jealous because JuJu, he bursted onto the scene.
Yeah, and JuJu was past him in yards. So I think Antonio Brown just wants to be the solo show, and it shows that he was getting jealous, or he was just getting upset that his boy Big Ben was passing it to somebody else. So
it's a combo of everything. It is.
and we'll
Part of me
see.
is
It'll
kinda
be a
hoping
very
he doesn't have the
interesting.
greatest season. I don't wish injury upon anyone. I don't want that to happen, but maybe a down year from Antonio Brown, bring him back down to earth. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I was that guy that always said Antonio Brown, sure, talented as all hell, but the rapport he had with Ben Roethlisberger and the connection that they had, I feel played well in like it helped Antonio Brown and how he's rated today.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
So I
He was the
really
number
do
one.
want to see how he does with Carr, or if somehow they get Murray, which I think he's going number 1 overall, so they won't get him. But even Carr, I just want to see what they can do. If he has 100 catches and 1,000 yards and like 8 touchdowns, I'll be surprised.
Yeah,
I don't see it happening.
I would too.
Just his talent alone is why I still have him in our top 10 here for wide receivers, but just based on talent alone. So
yeah, going into a new team with the Raiders, it's hard not to rank him in the top 10, even though he's going to have probably a wide variety of like where he's going to end up. I could see him at like top 5 all the way to in the 20s. It's seeing who's throwing him the ball. And you got to look at Big Ben. The reason that Antonio Brown was number 1 wide receiver going almost 101 every single draft for the last 5-6 years is because Big Ben just peppers him with targets. Yep. It's scary how many targets he got. And that then there wasn't really anybody else that was stepping up as a number 2 like JuJu did. So Antonio Brown literally just jumped onto the scene and stayed on the scene because of Big Ben and JuJu being the connection. So, and then kind of as brighter news, I know that we had Le'Veon Bell and James Conner had kind of a nice
respect.
Kind of, yeah, it was a respect text, and then Le'Veon Bell put it up on social media. And social media, maybe something like that could stay in the text, and they can have their mutual respect. But I mean, it kind of shows that maybe he wants people to know, the people that are bashing Le'Veon for going to the Jets, to let them know that he was in it for a good reason and that he was a good teammate. And it kind of, even though he shouldn't have put it out there, it does add respect for people that see that and they're like, okay. And I'm excited for James Conner now. It just makes me more excited for Conner.
I feel maybe he was trying to prove that Antonio Brown was the bad egg on that. You think that's kind of the underlying thing? Possibly. I don't know. Part of me thinks it might be.
Yeah, and like you said, he said with
Bell's name,
Yeah, he didn't want to be any part of, because Le'Veon Bell, I feel like, was connected at the hip with Brown with those trades, and he kind of was like, hey, no beef here. I'm just gonna separate myself and go on with my way. So
yep.
It was actually, in hindsight, it was probably a good move on his part to stay away from that. So, all right, well, let's move on to our top 10 rankings of our wide receivers, and this is if the draft was today. This is how I would draft it, and I actually like our consensus of me and you put together. It makes a very good list, and I'm looking through mine, looking through yours. I see the differences, but on this consensus, it is looking quite solid. I like we were talking about before we started this, there's about 6, 7 that I could see as our wide receiver 1 going into the season, and I would be pumped for it. I would say that would probably be the breaking point to where you get to these guys at the bottom and they have some question marks. And when you get to a question mark as your wide receiver 1, it kind of makes you worried going into the season. You don't want to be worried. So
honestly, though, say you started the draft with like 2 RBs on it, like if JuJu's my wide receiver 1 with 2 RBs or even Tyreek Hill or something like that, I would be happy that way. It's just like once we get down the list a little bit, Antonio Brown, I just feel the question marks surrounding him. Sure, he's a wide receiver 1 and he looks good in your wide receiver 1 slot, but for me personally, I think it'd be pretty scary.
Yeah, and like I said, question marks all around Antonio Brown.
Yep.
You want somebody that's going to be a top 5 guy to a top 10 guy. You don't want to be a guy that could get top 5 or it could be 20 plus. And that's kind of your wide receiver 1 you got to be thinking of. I've started to, as we've been doing these rankings and I've been talking to Ryan, I know that he has the strategy of the wide receiver heavy, and every year, I mean, it looks better and better as the years go on.
RB0. Dude, I swear I'm the one that like implemented that strategy. Dude. I did that strategy back when LT and Sean Alexander were around. Like it was running backs galore. Like I thought about it. I'm like, everyone's going to go RB. Let me stack wide receiver and see what happens. And
Yeah.
it works out because, like, I won a league one time with 4 dominant receivers because we had 3 receivers and a flex, which you could put whatever, and not whatever, but tight end, receiver, running back. So I put a receiver there. So I had 4 wide receiver ones. And this is back when Steve Slayton, there might not be people that even remember Steve Slayton, but he was a running back from, I think, West Virginia he went. And he was on the Texans at the time. So I had him and Darren Sproles as my 2 running backs. And I won the league. So
And just looking at these, and just looking at our top 10 lists, and you look at it, and it's like the average PPR draft right now, their average draft positions is like the first 6 players off the board is running back. So all of these high caliber wide receivers are dropping just like last year, and if it stays this way, it is a great strategy to take into like your later first rounds, and then you get that wraparound.
You have 8,
and you
9, 10. You can back them. You can just back-to-back receiver and be set basically.
So then let's jump into our number 1. So if we had the first pick, or the first pick for wide receiver, it's going to go DeAndre Hopkins, and I think it's a no-brainer going into this next season. And like we said with our top 20 draft that we did, DeAndre Hopkins is just leaps and bounds above everybody else now. And he stayed consistent no matter who's throwing him the ball, and he plays and he stays healthy. I'm going to knock on wood. He is a healthy guy. He's played only 1 game he's missed in his last 6 seasons. It's going to be a fun time watching
injuries. Last year, didn't he hurt his ankle pretty bad, and he muscled up and just stuck through it, which is pretty cool to see, man. He's not sitting out. He's playing through everything. He's a competitor. That's why, though. You'll see a lot of these guys that, like, same injury. I'm not going to throw a name out there, but to a kind of like a diva receiver, they'll probably sit. They're already getting paid a lot. Let me sit out a couple games. Not a nuke. He'll play through it and get you those fantasy points and prove why he's a beast.
And he's playing through these injuries as he's watching Will Fuller go down with injury, watching Kiki QT go down with injury. I mean, people around him are falling, and he just stays on that. I mean, he stays on that pedestal. Last year, having close to 1,600 yards, the next person on the team had 500, and then 300, and then 300. So he's out there to get his, and I think that nothing's stopping him. He's getting double coverage literally every play, and he goes up and makes the play. So 6 seasons, he's got 4 seasons above 1,200 yards, and then 1 close to 1,000. So you can't go wrong with the consistency, and that's why he's our number 1. Anything you wanted to kind of say about him or the Texans before we move on to our 2?
I just like his potential all around. I mean, Watson has a good arm too, so he can get the ball from anywhere on the field. His sideline catches are insane. The guy is just he's the most talented receiver, and if you don't take him number 1, I think you're making a mistake.
Yeah, and I think that's a clear 101. No one I really would put above him. Going on to our number 2, talking about a guy that goes up and gets receptions, we got Davante Adams. Me and Ryan both chose Davante Adams as our number 2. And talking about consistency, I mean, you really can't say touchdowns are predictable unless you're talking about Aaron Rodgers' number 1 target. I mean, even on Aaron Rodgers' down year, he put up close to 1,400 yards and 13 touchdowns. And talking about a guy that also stays healthy and he plays through injury, he hasn't missed more than 3 games in the last 5 years. So what do you have to say about Davante Adams? I know we're big Pack fans over here.
Well, I had him on my fantasy teams, and he did not have less than 17 in a game, I believe, in PPR. So that right there is insane. He stayed between 17 and about 28. He had like 2 bigger games. But that right there is just you can't ask for much better than that. You're guaranteed to get 17 from that guy last year, no matter what. That was his floor, and
he never busted throughout the entire year. He was never a bust pick.
And even on like a so-called down year for Rodgers, and with all this news coming out that he had a broken leg and his torn MCL, partially torn MCL, and that may be why he was making bad throws. Now he said he's fully healthy. You could see Adams compete with Nuke for that top spot, but you still got to take Nuke just for the safety. I mean, he's going to do it. He's the guy. Adams could. Now, honestly, I would not be surprised if Adams were to finish number 1, but that is going to be dependent upon Aaron Rodgers playing like in the Aaron Rodgers of old, like MVP caliber.
Yeah. And I mean, you look at Hopkins versus Adams. Hopkins had 163 targets and Adams had 169. And
Okay.
Hopkins caught 115 to Adams' 111. So Hopkins
Pretty
had
similar.
more yards, but 2 less touchdowns. So I mean, if you look at both their seasons, both players are very similar. And Hopkins had, I think, like 1 down game or 2 down games. So Devontae Adams giving no down games the entire season. He's gonna be nice for me. I'm gonna keep him as my keeper going into next season. So I look forward to that. Moving on to our number 3. So here's where we kind of differed. Our number 3 consensus is going to be Julio Jones. And I think Julio Jones is in consideration for these top 3. I know that Ryan had him at number 4 and I had him at 3. So I pushed him up. Julio Jones is just a beast. And I think he deserves the new tag Megatron for... He's the Megatron of this year.
Whoa, chill out. Don't disrespect my boy like that.
No.
All right, I can see it. You know, I was debating on putting him there, but as soon as I have to see more touchdowns, that's the thing. Like the dude's gonna dominate in yards yearly. He's a freak. He's a freak of nature. The guy's insane.
And I mean, he had one more target than Devontae Adams last year, and just 2 more catches. So I mean, they're all in that range.
Julio, he can. That's another guy that I really would not be surprised if he just finished number 1 overall.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
How he's not always there. Like that's the crazy thing.
And just think if he had no touchdowns or 1 touchdown going into like week 6, and then he came out with 8. Just think if he had that hot streak at the end, he would be a number 1. I mean, Tyreek Hill actually was a freak last year,
but throwing the ball, not Matt Ryan. That's why.
Just slinging it, and he always has the yardage. I mean, he's had 1,600 yards back in 2014, and then it's been 18, 14, 14, 16. I mean, he's a yardage monster, and with PPR, he's getting his receptions as well. So I think he's a safe pick.
Dude's
like
put up
always.
20 points a game without touchdowns. Like,
Yeah, that's
you know what I mean? That's the upside on Julio's insane.
And we talk about it every year when he gets these 20-plus yard receptions. Just think if he got in the touchdown, or just think if he got in the end zone once in these games.
I think I mentioned it last week. I had him in touchdown only for a few years, and he would put up 10 catches for 142 yards, 41 yards, whatever, and no touchdowns, 0 points. You know, it's like, come on. I had him in touchdown only, and he's not scoring. Putting up massive numbers, but no touchdowns.
So Julio at number 3, and then this is Ryan's number 3. My number 5, we have coming in at rounding to 4, Michael Thomas. And Michael Thomas, I'll let you start talking about him, Ryan. You're pretty bullish on him.
We're gonna go with he's just another safe pick. His floor is really nice. His ceiling can be capped, I feel, just because he doesn't have blazing speed, so he's not gonna score from 70 yards out, unless he has what's his name, Hill throwing him the ball off the wherever I thought they're gonna run. You remember that play? That was at the end of the year.
Yep.
He scored like a 60 or 70 yard touchdown, and he's not going to do that much, maybe once a year or maybe on a Hail Mary or something. But other than that, he's going to move the chains. He's going to get, I would say, at least six catches a game or close, but he can top out at 18. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that he's
and the way
he's the target monster there.
And I was going to say, the way they use him, the Saints like to throw those quick passes. I mean, he had, if he was ranked for his average yards per reception, he's right at 11, and the most top guys are at 20 plus. So and he had a record high at his catch percentage. He had an 85% catch percentage.
Catch percentage was off the chains with that guy.
147 targets.
Is that what it was?
85%. So he had 147 targets and 125 catches. That is
wow.
Unreal.
That's why I want him on my team. So
yeah, and 1,400 yards. So really, he was very consistent when it came to when they threw him the ball, he caught it. But during the season, I know that he had some down games, especially going
a couple down games.
Yeah,
but that's when the run game was just going. They didn't need him. So those Kamara Ingram shows probably in that game.
Yeah, and when it comes to wide receivers, he doesn't really have much that comes up. And now he's got Jared Cook there. So Jared Cook is going to get a couple of targets thrown his way, and hopefully it opens up Michael Thomas. And Alvin Kamara obviously is going to get his. But besides that,
I see it helping Thomas because
I do too.
You have to focus on Cook. You can't just let him run free. I mean, you're going to put a linebacker on him, you're probably going to lose that matchup.
Yep.
So they might have to put a safety, and that could leave Thomas with single coverage. And single coverage with a big receiver like Thomas that's not fair. So it's going to be interesting.
And I'm excited for Thomas too because he's my second keeper. I got Adams and Thomas for my 2 keepers in my keeper league.
Oh, that's stupid.
So
That's not fair.
So I'm gonna be looking good. All right.
I'm
Well,
glad I'm not in that league with you.
yeah, it took a little bit though, and we'll talk about that in another episode. So number 5, going in at number 5, Odell Beckham Jr. I have him at 4. Ryan has him at 5, so it pushes him just past Michael Thomas. Odell, what a hype name. I know he's had some injury concerns, but going in at in Cleveland, I think he as well as like Antonio Brown has that he could finish top 5 or he could fall to, I don't see him falling too far because he's going to get a lot of targets, but I mean, he could be 10 plus, between 10 and 20, and I wouldn't be surprised there either. We haven't seen it going on a new team. Obviously, that has to be your expectation until you see it. So, what is your hype on Odell going to the Browns?
Odell is, I think he's gonna have 10 plus touchdowns. Baker's arm is 10 times better than Eli Manning. I know there's a lot of different weapons there, but I think Odell is he's gonna become his favorite target real fast.
Yeah,
the talent of that guy's insane, and he is my favorite receiver. So I respect you for having him at number 4. I actually have him at the 5 spot, so that's pretty cool to see that you have him ranked pretty high.
Yeah,
but it's a new look offense, and it's an exciting team. There's gonna be a lot of hype around Odell, so I don't plan on probably having him in many leagues because I'm sure people will be taking him.
Yeah,
But,
and going into
the excitement around him, and his talent is insane with a quarterback like Baker Mayfield. It's a good combination to have with massive upside.
Yeah, massive upside. And looking at Cleveland last year, I mean, you didn't have anybody that was over 1,000 yards. I think Odell changes that really fast going into his first season with Cleveland. And you have Jarvis Landry there that's going to require coverage.
Catches.
Yes.
So.
And Landry is going to be fun to watch because he could be like the Emmanuel Sanders to the Demaryius Thomas, where Landry's going to be inside, quick, speedy, and then you got Odell over the top. And
they can both run them slant routes, though. That's the crazy thing. So I feel like they're going to help each other. They're teammates at LSU, so they don't have a problem playing with each other. And I don't think there's going to be a problem because there's enough ball to go around. Like, yeah, they have other playmakers and Njoku and stuff like that, but Njoku even fell off last year. He disappeared for many games, so it's not like he's an elite talent, but he's obviously a nice piece to have for that offense. But with these two guys, they're going to take a lot of attention off of each other.
Yeah, and I can see that as well. And with the QB upgrade that you have there of Baker Mayfield, I think having a whole season with him is going to be a change as well. You have this whole offseason of practicing. Odell got over there soon enough to be able to practice with Baker the entire offseason. And it's only going to grow chemistry. And having Landry, Odell, you have Njoku, Chubb, Hunt. I mean, the options that the defense has to cover only makes for any of them having a great season. So
they still have the Callaway?
Yeah, yep, Antonio Callaway.
That's another guy that you could look out. He could be fantasy relevant this year too.
So we'll have to keep an eye with the Browns. They're going to be exciting this year. So going into our 6 and 7, it was actually a tie. We're going to put JuJu Smith-Schuster at our 6th spot. After talking about it, we think JuJu going into this next season as being the main wide receiver for this team is going to produce, I think, equal fantasy numbers. I know that a lot of people are up in arms about, he's going to get the double coverage now, but you have to think he's also going to get the targets. You look at Antonio Brown. I mean, Antonio Brown got peppered with all those targets is only going to be good for JuJu as well.
Yeah, where are those targets going to go? I'm sure they'll be spread out a little bit more. They're probably going to draft a receiver. James Washington might be back into the fold. I know he disappeared last year and he was really hyped. But yeah, JuJu's still going to get massive targets. And it's just another guy. And where is he at? We have him at 6, you said?
Yeah.
So that right there, that's 6 straight guys that have massive upside. And JuJu could leap over a lot of these guys that we just talked about. Honestly, he has the talent to do so and the opportunity.
Yeah, and I also see, because you look at Antonio Brown last year, you're missing out on 168 targets and almost 1,300 yards. So
Where are those going?
I mean, they're not all going to James Conner. They're not all going to James Washington.
Who do they have on their roster? It's just JuJu, Washington. They re-signed that Rodgers dude, I think. But that's nothing. There's nothing behind JuJu. So you got to think that all them targets that Brown was sucking up, those are all going to go to, like, half those you can think are going to go to JuJu.
Yeah, I mean, you can't give
Another
Switzer and
quarter is
Rodgers.
going to go to Connor, and then Vance McDonald, someone to watch out for.
Yeah, I could see him getting an uptick in his tight end receptions, but I guess we'll see. It's something that JuJu hasn't seen since Brown's been there, and JuJu had a great season last year with 166 targets on 111 receptions, 1,400 yards, and 7 touchdowns. So he was ahead of Antonio Brown in receptions and yardage, but Antonio Brown did collect 15 touchdowns over JuJu's 7. So that's a lot of touchdowns to be dispersed as well, because Steelers are going to score. Their offense is high tempo, and I just believe
they're going
that
to score. Their defense isn't the greatest, so they're going to have to put up numbers.
So JuJu is something to look out for. I would definitely be happy having him as my my one. I think that's kind of on the teetering of where it slowly falls off. Going into our number 7, and it was a tie with JuJu, is Tyreek Hill. And we're going to talk about Tyreek Hill as if he's playing day 1. Tyreek Hill would not be on this list, and I don't think he's going to be playing football if he gets a suspension / doesn't play ever again type of ruling. So
I don't get how they don't do the Hunt treatment with him, though. Like, if something comes out and there's video proof, Tyreek Hill's going to probably be off the team.
And I think it was
pretty depleted, so...
And I mean, back in college, he also had the problem with abuse, domestic abuse.
That's why he fell. Exactly. That's why he fell. That's why he fell in the draft.
And it's involving a child on this one, so it'll be interesting to keep track of, see what's going on with Tyreek Hill. You hope that it's all just alleged and nothing comes of it, but we'll let you know if something does. But in the meantime, we're talking about the number 1 PPR wide receiver from last year. So having him ranked as in the low section of our top 10, I think that's kind of how he went last year, where people were just kind of sitting on him. He would go kind of high 3rd round, and he just exploded. No one was even thinking that Patrick Mahomes was going to come out here slinging, and his average, I'd have to look up his average yard per reception. I think it's 17. I mean,
it figures. I mean, he's a fast, speedy receiver, so that sounds about right.
And his 12 touchdowns, he had 87 receptions at 1,400 yards. So he just is he's someone to look out for. He's kind of that risk-reward wide receiver, and sometimes you need a guy like this who's going to put up a 30, 40-point game and pretty much win you your week, and it's nice to have that kind of versatility.
I lost to him to Brady. I beat him in the championship. Not luckily, I guess I don't want to say that, but I did beat him in the championship. But I lost him in the regular season early because Tyreek Hill. That was one of the games where he just snapped, and I was already down. That's like when I played you. Cooper Kupp had like 40 something. So it's just like a huge disadvantage. And when you have someone like that, which Tyreek Hill can do on any night, that's great to have it for fantasy because he's gonna, if he puts up that 40 bomb, you're already winning that. More than likely.
Yeah. And it comes.
You have some really bad luck. So anyway, you're losing. Well, that's a great start.
And I mean, some wide receivers are boom and bust like that, but when you have like Tyreek Hill, the percentages are in your favor.
That is really boom. Like, he doesn't really bust though. That's the thing. So he's not like a boomer bust like the Deshaun Jackson type back in the day. He was boomer bust, and
yeah,
Tyreek Hill is going to give you probably at least 10 a game. I feel.
Yeah, I can say that.
With the opportunity to hit a 50, you know what I mean? Like he could.
Yeah, he had a couple down games because of the injury, but I would say 10 is the low, and then all the way up to 40
plus. Expect the floor being like 10. That's where I would go.
So then after Tyreek, I like this pick, and I like seeing him on our list, is Mike Evans. Ryan has Mike Evans up at 6 ahead of JuJu, and I have Mike Evans down at 9. So that's what puts him at the 8th spot. Mike Evans is that sneaky wide receiver that, looking at the wide receiver core and how pieces are kind of going, and Deshaun Jackson and Humphreys, all of a sudden his high numbers could go higher is scary to say. And now that you know that the quarterback is there to stay from day one, and it's not going to be who's going to play quarterback this day? Who's going to be chucking them?
Chairs back there. It's who's quarterbacking this team.
So you're talking about a 138 targets, 86 receptions for 1,500 yards and 8 touchdowns. So the yardage was huge for him. 86 receptions is kind of low compared to our top guys that we have here. But let's say Humphries is gone, who had 105 targets. Deshaun Jackson's gone, 74 targets. If Mike Evans jumps up to that kind of higher caliber 160 target type of people, and his receptions go up to 100 plus, and he's already at 1,500 yards and 8 touchdowns, what if you have your number one wide receiver right here sitting at the back of our top 10?
And he could be a top 5 guy. And I have him at 6 because, well, first of all, Arians is the coach, and he loves to air it out. He's had a lot of good quarterbacks that he's coached, but I feel Jameis Winston has the talent. He could be pretty damn good. He just needs, I think this might be the right coach for him. And if that's the case, if all the stars align, Mike Evans will be back to his dominant year, and he could put up them same numbers where he finished top 3.
And I mean, I would
put no run game. Like I said, they don't have a run game. They still don't. So that only bodes well for Mike Evans.
And I mean, I would put my sneaky wide receiver badge on Mike Evans this year coming up, where I think he could surprise. I know he's in our top 10, which is supposed to be all good wide receivers, but I'm talking like top 5. I might put a sneaky note next to Mike Evans coming into the next year's draft or this year's draft, and possibly drafting him in the late second or mid second, and having my wide receiver 1 right there. So we'll have to take a look at how far he drops. Let me look at the PPR consensus on where he is going. You got Mike Evans down at the 210. So at the end of the second round, going into the third round, I would gladly take him there.
Oh, that's all day. I'll take him. I'm taking him probably early second. I would not be afraid to take him early second round if I like combo the receivers.
Yeah, and like we
OBJ,
said,
Mike Evans, I'll do that. I've had that combo for so many years. My championship I won 2 years ago. That I had them 2 on my team, so
yeah,
I wouldn't be afraid to do so.
And I mean, looking at Mike Evans, he's a healthy guy. Knock on wood again. I mean, he's missed the most he's missed in the 2015. He missed 3 games. So you have a healthy guy that's going to play all his games. You don't have to worry about it. And looking at the team, you have Godwin and Evans and OJ. Deshaun, like I said, Deshaun Jackson and Humphries gone, and no run game. I mean, you have Cameron Brate as a second tight end, but they don't throw to their running back as often. So I like Mike Evans this year. He is in our 8 spot. And moving to our 9 spot, this is where Ryan had him. I had him 1 ahead in the 8. We have Antonio Brown at the 9 spot. Antonio Brown is a dark horse going into this year. It's hard to rank him. It's hard to put him pretty much anywhere on the list. He could go top 5 if Carr / any quarterback throwing to him is like Big Ben and just wants to just throw it, targets galore. Or he gets frustrated. I can see him easily getting open, not getting the pass to his hands like he's used to, and getting frustrated, and all of a sudden he falls off like kind of like a diva, get upset with the team.
Frustrated over there in Pittsburgh, and he had how many targets and how many catches?
Yeah,
he's not
exactly.
Gonna put that up over there. I just feel like it might be trouble. Might be trouble brewing in Oakland.
And I'm thinking having his touchdowns. So he was at 14 or 15 touchdowns, and then I'm thinking taking like 500 yards, 400 or 500 yards off of his total. And you kind of have your kind of 12, 13.
You got to take touchdowns off too.
That's
what I'm saying. The same amount of touchdowns, and like I said, I mentioned it earlier in the show. I have him up here due to talent.
Yes,
that's really it. I mean, there's going to be opportunity for sure, but I could just see him being the diva that he is, just getting very frustrated and kind of battling himself.
And you look at the Raiders offense. I mean, they spent a lot of money on him. They got rid of Jared Cook, no Nelson, and those are their 2 top guys. The next guy, Jalen Richard, with 600 yards and 81 targets. So there was not a lot of offense, and you got to think of the Raiders being on the field for offense, 3 and out. I mean, he's not going to have the time that he had in Pittsburgh, time on the field, to get those heavy reception games. And you got to think about that too, where teams are just going to be plowing over the Raiders, and eventually it's just going to turn into maybe I'll get some garbage points at the end. So that's kind of how I think about it. I look at both sides where I can see where he gets targets galore. He's able to separate himself, so that's a plus for if Carr can get him the ball. And I guess we'll go from there. We'll have to find out going into the season. So
Off topic. I mean, it's not really off topic, but Jalen Richard is going to be someone that I'm going to circle just because I'm a PPR type of guy, and it's kind of like a running back I'll take later in the draft just for the opportunity he's going to have. There's not much there to throw to, and even last year he got thrown to a bunch of times, and I could see him. And I know John Gruden, I don't remember who he compared him to, but it was a stupid comparison. There's no way he's as good as the guy you mentioned. But I mean, he has high hopes on him, so it's a guy to keep an eye on, just for a flyer running back that could jump into your flex or even RB2 slot possibly during the year, that could put up some nice numbers for you.
Yeah, and like we were saying, the
small
targets,
name guys, they're not gonna be the guy like you're gonna draft them and everyone's gonna be like, oh, great pick. They're gonna be like, what? That's just how it is.
Yeah, and you'll get him later, and with a stacked wide receiver core, he's nice to have. I could see starting him because you look at the top guys here, the top 2 targeted guys are gone.
He's not your ideal like start. I mean, he's gonna start your season probably on the bench. Well, he should.
Yeah.
On your fantasy bench, but like I could just see with the injuries that happened to the RB position, he could definitely be a valuable piece.
Yeah, he's like your Duke Johnson, Chris Thompson type guy. So, well, then let's round it off. So we have Antonio Brown at number 9, and then me and Ryan both agree our 10th overall wide receiver is going to be the man Keenan Allen, the one that they said was injury prone and came out and had a great season for the second half of his season.
For him though, with that, I always argued for that he's not injury prone. He destroyed his spleen one year. Like, what are you supposed to do? And then he tore his ACL. So,
and it was just a sour taste because he played one game and then he was out.
Yeah.
And then
all of a sudden, I had a lot of people that drafted him that year, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not touching him this year." Tore his ACL. I'm like, okay, I'll take him. That year he was in the 3rd, 4th round. That was 2 years ago. I had him in all my leagues, and it worked out. So I'll gladly take him again. I don't want this is another thing. I don't want Keenan Allen here as my number 1 receiver. I mean, I wouldn't be upset. So say let's take like a mid-round running back. Maybe let's just say we got Kamara and then paired him with Keenan Allen somehow. That's not a bad combo. Start the draft.
No. And I mean, it's definitely possible because Keenan Allen, he's going right around. Let me get his number here. He's all the way down at the 304. So in the beginning of the 3rd round.
That's okay. I reached a little bit, so I would not be upset with that combo.
I mean, you could get a top running back comes back around to you, where you can get a Mike Evans at the end of the 2nd, and then get Keenan Allen as your 1, 2, 3. That sounds like
I'll take that all day.
That sounds like
good.
Ideal.
Well, in my eyes, that's a good start for me. That's just kind of the way I go about it. So,
yeah, and it just being heads up and seeing where people are falling, and not Keenan Allen. Like I said, and like Ryan said, I wouldn't want him as my number 1. But if he pairs up with somebody that's going to put up monster weeks, and then you got Keenan Allen, who's got kind of a base of, I would say, 10 to 12, it's good to have that consistent wide receiver with a boom wide receiver / running back. So
when I say I don't want him as my number 1, this might be taken wrong though. I will take him as my number 1 if I go back-to-back running back. Then Keenan Allen as my number 1 is great. But like I've mentioned before, I'm a huge wide receiver guy, so that's him as my number 1 is just kind of scary.
And he doesn't jump off the page as being like a superstar wide receiver. He's a good wide receiver that's in our top 10, but I don't see him as ever being like a top 5 going into the season.
Keenan Allen, yeah, I don't think he can be in the top 5. That's the thing with everyone else that we talked about. They can finish top 5. It's possible. I just don't think Keenan Allen can.
Yeah, and looking at the list that we have built here, I think Keenan Allen is that first person where I would almost kind of confidently say I see him as maybe around like the 6 is like his highest. So 6'2", 20 something, and I think he's pretty consistent to where 10 is a good spot for him. And so a couple of notable mentions. Ryan, you want to go through? You have any notable mentions up that you want to talk about? Maybe we'll check on them next week. And somebody that maybe you wanted to sneak in your top 10 or just right at that 10 spot?
I have 4 for you.
Yeah.
I think one of them you're going to laugh at, but
I
I
already
truly
know.
believe he has the talent and the opportunity to do it. Now, we left off Adam Thielen off this list. I just feel the second half of his season was pretty scary, and it was actually like pretty bad. But the first half of his season was straight dominant. Now, if he can combine that all and get a little bit better average, he would still be like top 15. If obviously he plays a whole season like he did in that first half of the year, he's a top 5 receiver. But I don't see that happening. He's an honorable mention. They got Amari Cooper. Here's a guy that can finish top 5. I truly believe he can. But it's just the inconsistencies are scary. He flashed pretty big last year in the second half with the Cowboys, and I feel a full offseason to work with them. His upside is pretty dang big.
Would you put in a lot of confidence with Dak Prescott?
I do. I like it. He's one of my targets, and if I were to go like 2 running backs and then 2 receivers, I would not mind Amari Cooper in that spot.
Okay.
I just feel his upside is awesome.
And he's another one too that people are probably going to overlook. Cooper, he had a lot of years as a Raider that were hurting players because people are drafting him early, thinking, "Oh,
they're
this
going
could
to
be
do it
that
again,
breakout."
though. He's going to be reached upon. That's why
You
I
think
feel. Yeah, I think people are going to reach on him. Just what he showed last year, and his name. For some reason, everyone wants to take him like late round 2, and even when he was on the Raiders, Mark Cooper, he's next. He could have been the next Julio. He's talented enough, not as fast, but.
And I mean, right now he's going at the end of the third. He's the 308. He's sitting right next to AJ Green. So would you take him at the end of the third?
Of course, and I'm taking him over AJ Green for damn sure.
Yeah, that's okay. That's what I'm thinking. And
just for upside wise, man, AJ Green can't stay healthy.
And like we said with the Raiders and Antonio Brown, I mean, Dallas, who else do they have that they're going to be throwing to? Didn't they just pick up Cobb?
Cobb, there you go. Cobb's okay. He's taking Beasley's spot, so it's not like
it's valuable. I mean, Beasley had some good games. He was serviceable.
Cobb is another guy you could look at. I mean, he's not going to be a game breaker, but he's not going to take away from Cooper though. Cooper's going to have his opportunity because they have to stack that box against Zeke, so he's going to have all the opportunity in the world. That's why he's not in my top 10, but he also has a chance to finish top 5 just on talent alone and opportunity. So yeah, it's all there.
Okay, and I mean, another person that we kept out that a lot of people are going to be thinking about is T.Y. Hilton.
That's my boy too, T.Y., but injuries and sounds like they want to focus on the run game a little bit more, so that's going to be mixed in.
Yep,
and they're starting to get some targets there. Eric Ebron's going to be back. They got Devin Funchess for some red zone. So they still got Jack Doyle and all them young receivers, Pascal, Rogers. There's another guy too. I'm pretty sure they have Hines out of the backfield. It's just his upside is kind of limited. He is probably the number 1 target there. He's a deep threat guy. He's not too much of a PPR type of player. So if you're playing standard leagues, T.Y. is not a bad guy to have just because he can boom for that touchdown.
And Keenan Allen was so good back in the day, and I think it's just catching up to him where the team's getting younger. And
T.Y.?
I'm T.Y. Did I say Keenan Allen?
Yeah, you're good, though. I knew what you meant.
Yeah, T.Y. Hilton, he was a top pick. He was your guy like 3 to 5 years ago.
Well, the year I won that Super Bowl, I won last year too, but the 2 years ago when I was talking about OBJ and Evans on my team,
Yeah.
I had Ty on that team too.
And you always seem to go for him too, because
Yeah.
he has that boom potential. He's kind of like right now, he's kind of like a poor man's Tyreek Hill, to where
That's not a bad comparison, honestly.
and he'll have those bust games, but it feels good to have T.Y. Hilton sitting there over, I would say, like a Julian Edelman, like a Cooper Kupp. I like having T.Y. Hilton just because you know that he has luck throwing to him, first of all, who is a dominant quarterback, and I think he's going to have a great season. And T.Y. Hilton can still create a lot of separation. He's a quick guy, so deep
He's
ball.
still one of Luck's favorite targets, and he's a deep ball guy. And here's where I think Ty is going to be very good. Like, this is where you want Ty. Say you go back-to-back running backs, you take another receiver, and then Ty's there in the fourth. Then he's your second receiver. That's all day. You want that. And vice versa. Say you go my strategy where you go RB0 and Ty's in your flex with 3 other receivers. Like, to me, I'm doing that. I have no problem with that, because then you're getting the value out of Ty. Say you take the 3 straight receivers and Ty's there, he's your flex player,
And
that's where you can have them boomer busts.
And looking at these average draft positions right now, I think he's being overdrafted at the early 3. It seems like the spot that he normally goes to.
I think he's going to fall a little bit, so I'll be able to hopefully scoop him up in the 4th.
Yeah, I could see him dropping past like Cooper, Diggs, Edelman, kind of in that area, down by Edelman in the beginning of the 4th. That sounds about right for Ty.
I got
one
one more. I got to get to here.
Yeah, I was going to call it out. I'm like, hey, hit me with it.
To this, and I know I mentioned it to you before the show, and you're like, really? But Kenny Galladay, he is. I just feel like he's like an AJ Green clone, and with the opportunity he's going to get in Detroit, and a full offseason is working as the number 1 guy, I expect big things. I am a big Lions fan, so maybe a little homerism here. Maybe it's a hope that I have.
Yeah.
But I mean, am I wrong? Is the potential not there? Like, is it there? I feel it's there. It's possible.
As his average draft position, he's right around Brandon Cooks and Cooper Kupp, and Galladay as the number 1. And you're picking around people that are like the twos.
I'm taking Galladay over both of them.
Yeah.
I just am.
He played 13 games last year. He had 1,000 yards at 119 targets. And you got to look, Golden Tate's gone. That's 69 targets gone. Marvin Jones, I know he was injured. But them as the 1-2, and then you have nobody else. I can't think of what tight end they're going to be throwing to.
They don't have one.
So the Lions are going to be a little bit soft this year, but you still have Stafford and you still have Galladay.
You know,
Jones.
Stafford wants to throw the rock. He wants to throw the ball, and he's going to take chances. So I just expect Galladay to have just big things are going to come from him. He may not finish top 10, but if he finishes at a solid wide receiver 2, you're getting value all day. And I feel like that's where he should finish there. He should finish top 20, like, for sure.
And he'll be sitting on most teams as the wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3.
Yeah, probably 3, honestly, I bet.
And
that's
I would
a great wide receiver 3 to have.
Yes, I would love it as Galladay as a 3.
Yeah.
And he might be an early target too, because people, I have a feeling people will fall off him early if he has like one bad game, and you go and scoop him up.
Go and trade him for him.
I could see his 5 touchdowns going up as well.
Oh, that's going to go up. I feel it's going to go up. He's a big target.
Yeah. So, yeah, he's a good honorable mention. I know he's later in drafts, and I'm actually thinking that... Is this going to be
his third year? Is this going to be his third year?
For Kenny Galladay? Yes. Yep. Well, he started in the 17, 18.
Here we go. You know what everyone says, that third-year receiver, that's when you want him.
Yep, and in your second year, he's already got 1,000 yards in 13 games.
Exactly. He can't get worse. He's going to have a better season than what he just had. He's going to, unless he gets hurt.
Well, I like those shout-outs, and I'm thinking that next week we will do the 11 through 20, because me and Ryan will have some differing picks, but it'll be fun to talk about those wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, flex / players if you're going to go with the wide receiver strategy, and who you're going to pick. So we'll continue this conversation next week. And
I like that idea because I love receivers, so I'm down for that, man. I'm already excited.
And that's why we're doing receivers first, and then we'll do the running backs in 2 weeks, where we're going to go over kind of our thoughts on running backs, and that's going to be fun as well, because being PPR kind of focused pair, that our rankings go towards more of the PPR running back, If they're getting receptions, it's like a cheat code when it comes to running backs. You look at Zeke, he's getting receptions. I'm not going to get into it too far. So the next thing that we have on our list today is a few questions. I got 3 questions that we're going to ask. I know Ryan has not heard any of these, so it's going to be off the top of his head what he thinks. And I have a few stats here that I will go over as we're going over the question and answer. So this is on the Sleeper app. It's a great app to have. It's going to keep you up to date with everything that's going on.
Highly recommended. It's awesome.
I mean, I like it best. I like it over Bleacher Report.
Oh, for sure. And if you have it and your league mates don't have it, it's straight advantage.
Yes. You get it right away.
The breaking news that they get is over every platform, I feel. I could be wrong, but I feel like they're number one to get that. And then you can go make your move, plan accordingly. You got them, and they're going to be like, how did you know this? And you got them. You just be like,
and it's 24 hours.
You know what I mean?
I've had times where I'm sleeping and like 2 a.m. you hear some news and it's like, oh, okay. No one else is probably awake to hear
that noise. And you're like, oh, got it.
Exactly. It's like a drug.
It would be game breaking, and they are. There's some game breaking news.
So these are
game breaking news first. So.
And these are where we're getting our questions, and soon enough we'll start posting on the Sleeper app. So make sure you get on there and keep track of where we are. We're gonna make some questions on there, some polls. And also, make sure you stick around to the end. We have some exciting news to post about where you can find us. So, getting into the first question, Ryan, who would you rather have going into next season as your RB2, Nick Chubb or Sony Michel? And we're looking at Nick Chubb. Last year, he had 996 rushing yards on 192 attempts. And he played in 9 games. He started 9 games compared to Sony Michel, who started 8 games, had 931 yards and 209 rushing attempts. And where they differed is in their receiving. You have only 7 receptions for Sony Michel. Surprisingly, they were just pounding it with them. And then you have the 20 receptions, 29 targets for Nick Chubb.
All right. I mean, I already got my answer. I want you to guess who you think I'm going to pick, because I think you might get it wrong.
I think you're going to pick Nick Chubb, and that's who I would pick.
Okay, I'm going the opposite direction.
Okay.
And the reason behind it, I liked what I saw from him. For one, not that I didn't like what I saw from Chubb, but you got to think Kareem Hunt's going to be there in the second half of the year as well. And I'm thinking, come playoff time, who do I want? So Sony Michel is only going to get more work, I feel. And he should be off that injury that he had. Like last year, I feel like that did slow him down a little bit. But when Sony Michel was in the game, what did the Patriots do? What did they do? Just the simplest answer you can think of right now.
He got the rushes.
One word.
They gave him the ball.
That's
not one word, but
they won, bro. Like that's it. They won when that guy played.
Yes.
He's the engine to that team. He's going to get more and more involved. And everyone says he can't catch. He can catch. They just have a weapon in James White that can catch a little bit better, or a lot better possibly. But he's more than capable of catching the ball. So you said he had only 7 receptions?
Yeah.
That's why I thought you would, like how you said you thought I was going to pick Chubb just because I'm a reception guy. But that's going to go up. That number's going up.
Well, and I like them both. I like Sony Michel and I like Chubb, but in my opinion, I would pick Chubb over Michel just because you have the ability to trade Chubb about mid-season, and I think the beginning of the season, I guess it's hard to say beginning of the season because you have Michel going in healthy, and seeing a healthy Michel at the end of last season was a force. He didn't have a single game under 100 rushing yards, and I think he had a touchdown pretty much every game, if not 2 in most of them.
Yeah,
so,
I just feel like Chubb's side, it's just going to be a pass-happy offense. Like, they're going to use Chubb, but I just feel with the addition of Odell, they're going to want to, just to avoid distractions, they're going to pass more. And with Gronk being gone, I feel the Patriots are going to run more. And with Tom Brady getting a little bit older, they're going to run more. They're going to utilize the running backs more. They're going to have to throw to Sony Michel out of the backfield along with James White. I just feel like it all works out for him, in favor of him. Do you have where Sony Michel is going about?
Yep. I was actually just going to mention. So we have Nick Chubb all the way at the 209. So the end of the second round.
That's
and
fair. Is Sony Michel he has to be close.
Sony Michel's at the end of the third round. He's the 308. Okay. So you have a
whole
take
in there. Say I go back-to-back receiver and Sony Michel's there for my RB1. I'll do that.
Yeah, you got Sony Michel, Mark Ingram area. Mark Ingram's right behind Sony Michel, and then Derrick Henry.
Oh man. Okay. I mean, I like the upside of Ingram. I'm taking Sony Michel over both them.
And let me just looking at this average draft position for these people, look how many running backs are down in like the end of the 4th round. That you get some solid wide receivers.
Exactly.
It's gonna be rough telling people this, and then they do it against us. But you pick up a few of these wide receiver ones.
In our league, he already said, "Oh, I'm doing your strategy, Ryan. Like I don't care who's on the board. I'm doing your strategy. I'm taking 3 wide receivers first, and that's it."
And that's not what we would recommend either, though. Not just picking a strategy and going with it.
Don't do what don't do that. You can't do that because then you ruin your draft position and take undervalued players. And don't do that. If you have a top 4 pick this year, you better take a running back. You just have to. I have to do the same thing. I don't want to, but I have to. You have to.
Yeah. Well,
but like I said, if I have a top 5 pick, I'm going to try to trade out. I'm going to try to trade out of that top, and I should get some bites on that though. I mean, there's 5 dominant players at the top of the draft.
That's going to be an exciting episode too to talk about trades and draft picks because a lot of people have questions and it's hard to look up what's a good trade for draft picks because people really don't know the value of a draft pick, especially going into the season. And we can kind of touch on dynasty. I know we don't do a lot of dynasty, but just draft picks in general
we know
have their own
stuff about it though.
Yeah. So in the last question then, I'm picking Nick Chubb, but if I get a better player right before Nick Chubb, I would be happy with Sony Michel a whole round later. 4th round sounds great for Sony Michel / Nick Chubb. So
I'll take that all day.
All right, going into question number 2, very similar, and this is going to be a hard one. I think it's going to be a hard one. Who would you rather have running back-wise, Marlon Mack or Darius Geis? We're looking at Marlon Mack that just came off of 10-game start. He had 195 rushing yards, very similar to Nick Chubb with the 900 yards, and the targets were there, 26 targets for 17 receptions, 100 yards. So you're looking at Nick Chubb-esque numbers. With just 1 extra game, I think maybe 2 extra games. And he was somebody that I traded when he had that very hot streak. He had a few games in there that he put up monster numbers, kind of middle end of the season. And looking at Darius Geis, so him coming from the SEC, LSU, he took over when Leonard Fournette went down with the injury in 2016, and he was a force to be reckoned with. He had an A+ rank going into the draft, and he went in the 2nd round. So we were super hyped. I know all of fantasy football was hyped with Geis. I think he was going 3rd round. I mean, the hype was there. He had 7.6 yards an attempt, and he had a 285-yard game against Texas A&M. And he just looks like a straight beast when it comes to a running back, and it's everything that you want. He has agility, he's got the power, and he's fierce with the ball. So who would you think? I know talking about both of them, it makes it seem like Geis is the number 1, but you have to put in the injury. I know you recover from it.
That's the scary thing. They said that there was that infection and this and that. But even with that, like I think for me, I'm clearly taking Geis. Like, he is like an Adrian Peterson clone. That's where I feel it. Man. And Marlon Mack, I just don't trust him. I don't think he can hold up for one. He's not a bell cow running back, in my opinion. They have a lot of weapons on offense there to pass around. The Redskins don't. Like, who do they have a receiver?
The Redskins? Oh,
yeah,
God,
hit me.
Don't even...
Exactly. So we'll just leave it at that. So Darius Geis is going to get the ball a lot. And come draft time, we will know more, obviously, about Geis's health. If he's healthy and he's in there, you got to go Geis, in my opinion. Like,
well, they just extended AP, too, though.
Yeah, I get that, but AP's 34, man. He can't.
Yeah. And Chris Thompson's there as well.
Thompson's your pass catcher, but Geis, if they re-signed him as a safety blanket.
Yeah. And I like Geis too.
Health. And that's what I'm like. Come draft time, obviously, if Geis is, even if Geis starts on like the PUP list, I'm taking Mac. I mean, that's easy. Well,
and let me make this decision a lot easier for you as well. Marlon Mack is going mid 3rd round. He's at the 306. No. And then you have Darius Geis. Try and make a guess on Geis's average draft position right now.
Let's go with what, like 8th round?
Ooh, jeez. No. That's late.
7.
But if the hype starts getting it, it's at the early fifth round.
Oh, they have him right there right now with the injury concerns.
Yep. And that's where people are drafting him right now.
Well, dang, he's only going to go up from there. He's gonna be right back to where he was. If he's healthy, he's gonna be right back in that 3rd round range.
Oh yeah, I see him being even with Marlon Mack, and if he's running healthy, I would have no problem taking him.
Well, I mean, when I said 7th, 8th right there, that is with all this questioning behind his health. You know what I mean? Like if the draft was today, how can you take him in the 5th?
Well, let's do a quick fire round right here. You have Nick Chubb, you have Marlon Mack, Sony Michel, and Darius Geis. How would you rank them 1, 2, 3, 4 as who you're looking for in a running back?
Chubb, Geis, Mack.
Okay. Yeah, I would definitely go Chubb. I'd probably go Chubb, Geis, Mack, right? Michel, Geis, Mack.
Yeah,
and if Geis is healthy, I would push him maybe even above. I might even take Geis over Michel. So
it's possible. The guy's a beast. If he's healthy, I'm telling you, you watch out. Watch out. He's gonna be good.
And our last question, it's gonna be a quick one, and it's something that we all go through, and we all went through last year. I want you to tell me the 1 or 2 players in 2018 that wrecked your league, or at least wrecked your draft/team. I know that mine, it dropped all the way to me. He looked so juicy. I picked up the burger, and the burger had Le'Veon Bell on it. And I'm like, number 8, 8th pick in the 1st round, I'll take a bite of that. And it was terrible.
Yeah, you also took the Gronk with the great value pick.
I took oh my goodness. He dropped to the 4th, I think. So 3rd or 4th. It was just an excellent pick for the Gronk as well.
For you on Gronk.
So those are my 2 guys, and they were both on the same team. I had Gronk pretty much everywhere, and I still did very well. It just, talk about hurting me.
In our main league, I guess, early season, I took Amari Cooper in the 4th. I also had extra picks still because I traded my 1st round pick. So I traded out of the 1st round. I took Michael Thomas, Keenan Allen. What else did I have? Mike Evans, Amari Cooper. Royce Freeman. There it is. Royce Freeman. Bad. He was my 5th round pick. It was my RB1 at the time.
Yeah.
And it didn't work out.
And he was hyped up pretty.
But luckily, I stacked that draft with all them rookie running backs. Carry-on, Sonny, Penny, keep going. I had all of them, so I ended up having a pretty steady line of trade bait that I turned into some good running backs. So, I
know a lot of people, too, were getting upset with the playoffs. The playoffs hurt because there was people that fell off. You had... Sure. I know
AJ Green was one of my bad picks in one of my leagues. I wanted to mention him. I'm staying away from AJ Green this year.
Yeah.
Unless he goes to the Packers in a trade, then I'll think about it. Or
then I'll think about it. But
other than that, the guy can't stay healthy. So you want to spend draft capital in let's say where he's going, probably 3rd round. You want to take that 3rd round for how many games? 6? It's just not worth it to me.
So those, exactly, and I'll be happy when the person takes Green. There's a few people out there that's like, hey, someone's going to take him early, and it only just drops people to me.
Please take him. If he goes to the 4th or 5th round, obviously everyone's going to be all over that, but that's where I'll take him, maybe 4th round.
Yeah, you have him as your 3.
3rd round. Where's he going? Where do you have him? Right?
AJ Green is actually higher than I would have expected, but he is mid to late 3rd round.
Okay, that's what I guess, and that's where I'm not touching him. So,
yeah.
All right, that's cool.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So that's gonna do it for all the questions that I had. Make sure to stick around. We have some exciting news here. We are spreading to iTunes. It is our big news. I finally was able to get through to the iTunes podcast and approved it. I made sure to switch our names so that you're able to search us as MVP Fantasy Football and Sports Podcast. And just make sure you go into iTunes. It's going to be big that you leave us a comment, rate us 5 stars or any of the stars that you think that we deserve, and then just subscribe. Even if you're we're just once a week throughout this offseason, and once the season hits, we're going to be 2 times plus a stream. I think that's what our schedule is going to look like, and it's going to be awesome if we have some people following us on iTunes. I use iTunes at work every single day as just listening to podcasts as I work. It's great. It's free. Just download it as an app, and you just plug and go. All you have to do is subscribe, and it warns you every time that we put out a new episode. Right now, they're going out every Wednesday, and it's just going to be great for our channel, great for reaching out to more people, and the higher that we're rated and have more comments and subscriptions, the higher up we are on the list. And we would like to be up there to where people are seeing us when they're searching fantasy football, and that's where it's going to take off getting into next season. Once it starts up, people are getting hot and heavy for their drafts, and we're going to be right there, hopefully. So make sure you go to iTunes. We also are on Spotify. We're on Google Play, YouTube, Stitcher, TuneIn. You can find us everywhere. We're on Twitch. We're usually streaming either games, or we're going to start streaming these live streams for podcasts. You can find Ryan. Ryan, let us know where you can find us on Twitch.
You can find me at The Dynasty. It's going to be TH3_Dynasty, DYNASTY.
And you can find me at BowTYz, BowTYZ. My Twitter is TJONSON07. And you can find Ryan's Twitter. It's Ryan Elke, RyanOelke1, the number 1. So that'll do it for our podcast. Appreciate everyone stopping in. We did hit the hour mark on this one, and we will have some shorter episodes coming up, kind of as quick-fire episodes as well. Appreciate you stopping in, and have a great night.
Peace.